When you decide to run for office, anything can happen.
I grew up in a military family. I joined the Marine Corps because it was called to service.
In the case of John P. McNeil, who's a Democrat running for the North Carolina U.S. 2nd Congressional District seat, his biggest problem was rumors. He was going around shaking hands, telling people to vote for him, and they responded to him. You know what? We can't vote for you. You're a felon. John says he's not a felon, never been in trouble with the police, never had any problems whatsoever. Then let's go to John G. McNeil, who's a Wilson native, who is not running for office at this time. He was incarcerated in Georgia because he was defending himself and his son on his own property, and he killed a man.
When he got about 3 feet, I guess, I gave a warning shot in the ground. At that point, he sped up faster. So at that point, I had no other choice. I just pulled the firearm up in the shot. I didn't know if it hit him, went over his head, or hit him anywhere. The only thing I know, I had to move out the way to keep him from falling face forward on me.
It sparked national debate on wrongful incarceration. Many believe he was wrongfully incarcerated. And John P. and John G. McNeil, since they had the same name, decided they wanted to get together and get to know each other. John P. McNeil said he'd like to take a look at the criminal justice system that John G. McNeil says he was a victim of. We've got them both right here. I'm talking with Janet.
Welcome to the newest dialogue in politics, community news, human interest stories, entertainment, and information from Eastern North Carolina. Janet Conner-Knox is an award-winning journalist with more than 25 years' experience in print, radio, and television. This is Talking with Janet.
John McNeil is probably a pretty common name. And in Eastern North Carolina, we've got two John McNeils. One is running for Congress of the 2nd Congressional District, if I'm not mistaken. He is a Democrat, John McNeil. And then we have John McNeil, who is a former basketball star, a businessman. And, you know, you'll see one's black, one's white, but somehow, they've got confused. So, John, tell me, how did you go about finding out that there was a rumor? I know you were shaking hands with people and people were telling you that they thought you were a felon, but how else did you know about how far spread this rumor had gotten about you being a felon?
We got reports from our volunteers that they were being approached by people who said, "We can't believe you're working for a felon, that John McNeil's a felon and we're never going to vote for him, and we're spreading the word to make sure that John McNeil doesn't win."
And you thought,
what the on earth are people talking about? So I actually typed in John McNeil felon, and I came across John McNeil's story and said, huh. So we made a couple phone calls, and we kept hearing the story, and then we had a Republican operative come up to one of our unshirted volunteers and say, you know, hey, I'm with the Republican Party, and you know, I'm supporting a Republican candidate. I won't say his name, but make sure you don't vote for John McNeil. He's a felon.
John P. McNeil is a white man. Obviously, John G. McNeil is African American. So you pulled up his picture, you saw who he was.
We've been here once or twice a week. I have a fully functional website, and there are slate cards with my picture on it. So I have very little doubt that the people who are spreading this message know exactly who I am and know exactly who John McNeil is and know who John McNeil is, and are hoping that they can spread a lie to either suppress the vote or switch voters, you know, talking to people. The reality is not everybody spends their time on the internet reading stories. And if you spread a vicious rumor about somebody, you know, it's going to take seed, and it's taken seed in Wilson in some places. And that's why I reached out to a couple people, and And then John reached out to me, and we've been sitting here.
So you got to meet him, and what did you think of Gentle John, the man that you were rumored to be?
Him, he's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've read his story. You know, I remember the story. I'm always reading and
Yes.
learning things, and I remember the story from many years ago, but hadn't paid much attention to it until this started coming, and I was pretty sure he wasn't what he was being depicted as in Georgia. And but when I met him, I mean, it was a wonderful man.
So when you saw your name, John McNeil, running for Congress, did you say, whoa, that's not me? What happened? Did they put me out there anyway?
Well, initially when I got the call, and I think it was, I don't know, maybe hundreds of calls, and they was asking me, they said, well, you didn't tell me you was running for anything. I said, no, I'm not. They said, well, if you are, we're going to vote for you anyway. And they said, well, if it's not you, we still going to vote for it because that's a pretty cool name, John McNeil. How can you not be running for something? You can get my vote. So that's when I initially heard about John McNeil. So I started reaching out and saying, I got to meet this guy. He got my name. People calling me about it. I got to meet him.
The Talking with Janet show has some magnificent producers. We know that you're spellbound with John P. McNeil and John G. McNeil. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. I'm Janet Conner-Knox, host of Talking with Janet. It's a new series exclusively for Brotherside Entertainment. Communities in eastern North Carolina have concerns they see no one addressing. Where do their elected officials stand? What is their plan? The unemployment rate here is double the rest of the state. The working class want to know that their future is secure, but also, how can they make it today? They're worried about survival. Will they have electric? Food? If they fall ill, will a doctor be ready to see them right now? There are people with unique stories that deserve to be told. That's why politicians, community leaders, and everyday newsmakers will be talking with Janet at BrothersideENT.com. So we're back with the two John McNeils, John G. McNeil and John P. McNeil, who's running for the 2nd Congressional District, and that includes Franklin, Wake, Harnett, Nash, and Wilson counties. So you are...
And Johnston County.
And Johnston County. You are a Democrat, am I correct? I'm not saying you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell us why you're running for office.
I am running because as a citizen, I am sick and tired of watching the folks up in D.C. act in their own self-interests and not in the interests of the communities that they're supposed to be serving. I have, as many people in the United States have watched for 30 or 40 years, a repeated, elections of these politicians that just look out after themselves. They serve 2, 4, 6 terms, and then they're working for a big corporation making millions of dollars. We lack in the United States representatives who actually have been working folks, small business owners, who've been in the military, who've had to struggle within the communities. And I think that's why the House of Representatives isn't representing the people back here, is because they're these privileged few who come back and, glad hand, give us a handshake once or twice, and then you never see them again.
As host for Talking with Janet, I go out and talk to people all in the different communities and ask them about whether or not they're going to register, whether they're going to vote, who are they leaning toward, this candidate or the other. And many of them tell me that they're not interested. Many people have said they're not interested in registering and voting. That once a person is elected to office, they do whatever they want to do anyway, and they really don't concern themselves with the will of the people. I talked to a man in one of the counties that you want to represent, and this man tells me that he will never vote again. That at one time he went out, he got other people registered, he took people to vote and helped put a person into office. After that person was in office, he says he called them and they would not return his call. So he's not interested anymore.
Well, unfortunately, voter it's sort of a trained behavior. We've been lied to so many times, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, the big bad wolf, or, I'm the best wolf ever, I'm the best wolf ever. And then when they finally get there, nothing. They don't come back to the district. They don't do work for the people. You don't know them by name. You can't, some of them you'll recognize. But I absolutely 100% understand why voters are disgusted with the people who are elected. They're not doing the people's work. And that's what my commitment and I've done every job from mowing lawns to milking cows to, baling hay to driving a cab.
Cows.
It's hard work.
Wow.
It's hard work. But, what we need are some people that know how the people in our district, how they grew up, how they've lived, the struggles they have, milk or electricity, or, not that, milk's that expensive, but, electricity or, car insurance.
Yeah.
Those kind of struggles are real to the people, they're real to the people all over the country. But, the 2nd District is not a, it's not a district that's benefited from, this quote unquote Carolina comeback, which, I think it's a foolish nomer anyway. But the 2nd District is particularly unaffected by the Carolina comeback that a certain governor's claiming. So, they're still in the same place they were for the past 30 years. Without, no retirement, no 401ks, no jobs with pensions, no job security.
Right to work state.
And a right to work state.
Tell me what you think about that right to work state thing.
As a small business owner, I would love it if my employees could unionize. Not that I make a whole lot of money, but if workers had the power to be able to, say, here's the minimum that we'll work for. Here's the minimum that we'll accept. Businesses are going to
Collective bargaining.
Collective bargaining, yeah. Have to make a decision about how they're going to run their business. I don't obviously have a huge profit margin, but there are companies around here in North Carolina that are, working off the backs of people and making millions and millions of dollars, and they have the ability to help their employees better than they are.
John G. McNeil is sitting here beside you. He hasn't said much in this show so far, but he has some definite ideas about the broken criminal justice system, and you say that you're interested also as a candidate. So when we come right back, we'll have John P. McNeil, who is running for office, and John G. McNeil, who is not running for office. And by the way, we'll slip in again, John P. says he's not a felon, talking about the justice system here in America. We'll be right back.
What's all this?
Dad, can't you knock?
Why are you doing this to me?
A fascinating story, a man running for office and being told he's a felon, and he happens to have the same name as a man who says he's been a victim of the broken justice system. Fascinating. You don't see it anywhere else but right here on Talking with Janet.
I mean, his case is from what I know about his case, it is a classic miscarriage of justice for to try to raise charges and prosecute someone in an election year, which is what I saw and what I've read happened in his case. He, a man died who was at his house, who shouldn't have been there, who attacked him, and he ends up going to jail for it.
Was that shocking to you?
Well, it would be shocking if I didn't see it happen all the time in the American justice system. If it was the only time it had ever happened, I would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. But it happens all the time. The Innocence
Were you
Project
shocked?
is-
You thought the justice system was better than that before it happened to you, didn't you?
I did. Once I got into the system, I clearly understood that the system, if I could use it correctly, is a fail. And it fails innocent people. We stated on numerous times, on different interviews, that the system now is like a money market. They have no dealings with innocent or guilty. You're guilty until proven innocent now. The system initially supposed to be you're innocent until proven guilty. I think the system have went in the backwards, in the reverse. And like Mr. John P. McNeil just stated, that it's a weekly occurrence now. One time you might could turn on the TV and maybe catch some news about maybe some high school sports, but nah, we turn on the news, somebody getting killed every day. But that's just the camera. What about the ones that's not captured on camera that's actually getting away? What about the guys that's actually getting shot that's not on camera? And they saying, okay, he had a gun or she had a gun. I think it's time out for brutality that's going on. I think if the country is going to grow, I think we need to come together as a people.
We need good, sound leadership in our communities, in our media, in our legislatures, in our president, and our governor. That having good, sound leadership that doesn't have, from, the churches on up. That's what it takes. One of the things that disgusts me about American politics is we spend so much time, dividing in little tiny groups. Right now, there's a certain group that has the whole pie, and they throw some crumbs to us and say, hey, make sure he doesn't get that crumb from you, and make sure he doesn't get that crumb from you, and ooh, we're giving this free crumb to that person. You better hate them too. And that's, that's reflected in the way people perceive the world, because they're trained to, oh, that person's getting some, I'm not. But, I was talking to John McNeil, and he was telling me all the great things he's doing in the community, and talking to young kids and talking to parents. That's the kind of stuff that rebuilds communities and rebuilds trust and can bring folks together.
Were you insulted that they tried to use your name to bring a candidate down?
It wouldn't surprise me with what's going on right now around the world. But sometimes when they bring negativity to something, I think the end results will probably end up being positive. And I think if they're trying to bring some false facts, stating that he was a convicted felon when he wasn't, and actually trying to paint a picture or try to join us together, well, we may get together.
Mm-hmm.
And
It sounds like you have. It looks like you have gotten together, right?
Yeah, we have.
Team John McNeil's going to kick some butt.
And I believe it'll be a positive outcome.
So you're supporting his candidacy.
I am.
And you're supporting the fact that he is doing what he's doing in the community, and
Yes, ma'am.
and that he got a raw deal.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it looks like they lost. People have lost.
Well,
and
they only lose if
you've
we make
won
sure we,
if you win.
we gotta, let the world know.
Okay. All right. Well, it's Team John McNeil, I see.
It is.
John
It is.
John P. and John G. So what can be done on the federal level?
On the federal level, many of the cases are state cases. So on the federal level, until it reaches the federal courts, there really wouldn't be much to do. However, right now the federal courts have the largest number of vacant seats that they've ever had, because Congress won't, appoint the judges that have been selected.
Yeah.
So if you're in the federal system, you're going to sit there 4 or 5 times as long as you normally would to have a habeas, hearing, or to have evidentiary hearings, or have these appeals done. Right now, we're sitting with 4 Supreme Court justices because the Senate won't do their job. They're getting paid $200,000 a year, and they won't have a hearing to get a Supreme Court justice. And it's when politics gets involved with the legal system to that sort of level, and they've caused gridlock in the federal courts. The gridlock that's in Congress is now in the federal courts because it's slowing everything down. I know, on the state level, in North Carolina, there aren't enough judges, there aren't enough courtrooms, there aren't enough AOC support staff, and that slows the system down. So then people like John McNeil are stuck in prison for longer than they need be, when we could have.
In his case, he probably should. I
Shouldn't have been there to begin with.
He should have never
Yeah.
been there. Yeah. So yeah.
Triple the public defenders corps, or give them investigators and give them the resources they need.
Do they want investigators? Do they really want to know? Do you think? Okay, that's a tough question. I understand.
Well, it's not a tough question. It's the answer on live tape may not be.
Okay,
So,
I
but no,
understand. I understand. It's my job to ask.
A conviction for a crime that actually happened is a good thing for the American justice system. A wrongful conviction gives the public the illusion of safety. They feel vindicated that there was a conviction. But the problem is, and John's case is a little different than a wrongful conviction case, because he was wrongfully convicted of something he didn't do. But a wrongful conviction where they put the wrong person in jail means that the real perpetrator has been out there for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. And what else did they do in that time period? And that's disturbing and disgusting. Innocent until proven guilty is the way it's supposed to be. And if the system doesn't work to actually convict the truly guilty, and people like John are, sitting in jail 6.5 years. 6 years. Yeah.
Destroyed. A long time.
Yeah.
Thrown into solitary. Am I correct?
Yes.
I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. I would not have wanted to do that in one single room. 6 years is a long time.
All right, so we're going to get past the rumor, get past all of the John is a felon, because we know that's not true. So once all of that's gone, and we hope that's now, what do you want people to know about you, the candidate, John P. McNeil? What do you want them to know?
My life story is the story of probably the vast majority of the folks in North Carolina. I grew up in a military family, and then I went in the military, and I'm a working man for a working man's district. And the problem with the House of Representatives and the Senate, we don't have people who have just been normal, regular Joes going up there and understanding where, like people like John McNeil, working his tail off, caught in the wrong place, wrong DA.
Yeah.
His story, his story's, very typical of what a lot of people have had to go through. And, what I want them to know is, they'll have somebody they can trust, and I may not be able to personally answer their phone call, but when I'm back in the district, I will not have any problem, sitting down with them at Denny's or, Brewmasters or Big Harold's or any other places around here and sitting down and chatting. I feel that I'm no better than everybody in the district.
Well, John, it looks like the two of you are on the same team. I can't wait to see what happens. Okay, so we're really, really happy that you're here with us today. But as we always say to everyone who's watching, it is your duty to register and then investigate the candidates. Take the time to register and then take the time to look to see who the candidates are. We don't tell you here who to vote for, but we tell you to see if what a candidate is saying has to do with what you believe should be. Because I mean, you can't know unless you do the work for yourself. And you can't decide whether or not you're going to vote unless you're registered. I'm stealing that from someone else. They say in order to make a decision whether or not you're really going to vote, or whether or not you want to say that you're going to cast your vote, you first have to register. And so these guys, for instance, tell me about your website. You have a website?
What's your website, John?
www.justice4johnmcneil.com.
And mine is johnpmcneil.com.
Right. And
Support him and support me.
Right.
He needs justice.
We have John P. McNeil and John G. McNeil, who is still fighting for his freedom. He's got 10 years left on his probation. If you go online, you take a look at what he's doing online, you can help him exonerate and clear his name. And we thank you once again for looking at Talking with Janet. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on Talking with Janet, please contact us by email, brothersideent@gmail.com. Leave your name and contact information. Without that, your guest will not be considered.
This has been a Brotherside Entertainment production.